Neil's going to introduce us to you.
So for those that don't know the Madricks, Joanne and I have been married this December for 21 years.
Really?
Yeah, 21 years. We have 7 children. The oldest, Emma, got married in lockdown. Actually, did you know that, Daryl? And she has since immigrated with her husband to England. Our other kids, Caden is just matriculated this last week, or got his exit, and then we've got a whole lot of others all the way down to 5-year-old girls. So yeah, that's us. And we really love family. We enjoy talking about family. We enjoy seeing families doing well and living well. And so that's, I guess, why we're doing this course. And apart from that, we truly believe that families are the building blocks for strong society. And families under attack at the moment. I mean, there's no getting away from it. The families are breaking down all around us. And so if we can help, and us together as people who are passionate about families can build and help strengthen families, then number one, we're gonna build a stronger society, but also we're also going to influence people positively. So that's I think our heart, and that's why we're doing this thing. And thank you for joining us. All right, so I guess the first thing is why family culture. The focus of this course is to build family culture. So what I want to do is just step back a little bit and talk about. We're going to mention family culture, but we're going to talk about that next time. But atmosphere is what is built from the culture. So the culture determines what the atmosphere of your family is. And when we talk about atmosphere, we're talking about what your family looks like. So for instance, let me give you an example. If I used to teach, all right, so if I had a classroom and everyone in the classroom, all the kids were throwing paper airplanes around and throwing spitballs around, kind of what like Daryl used to do when he was at school, and a lot of other people. No matter how, if a new kid came to the class, no matter how good that kid is, it wouldn't take long for that person to be throwing spitballs and paper jets around as well. And the chaos in that class would rub off on that person, and he breathes it in. That person breathes it in. So that's the atmosphere. That's what I'm talking about. So what does your atmosphere of your family look like? So if it's a positive atmosphere, okay, the whole family is going to pick up that positive atmosphere. If it's a negative atmosphere, they're going to pick up the negativity in the atmosphere. It's the way that we play things out. All right, so those are two things that you need to keep in mind. So the culture of our family determines what our atmosphere is going to be. All right. So another thing, if we have give me another example.
Well, an example, I was just thinking about when our first child was a baby, he had just cut his first tooth and it started bleeding. He kept biting his lip and it kept bleeding. And I took him to the clinic and I was like, how do I stop this child from biting his lip? And she said, I've never seen this before. I don't know how to make a how many month-old baby stop biting his lip. And then about a few weeks later, we had just moved and we were living far from family and we had this little baby I don't know what to do with. And I was busy driving to work and I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw that I was sitting like this in the rearview mirror and I was biting my bottom lip, and him at what 5, 6 months when they cut their first tooth, he was already just copying me. So it wasn't even something I knew I was doing. So when we say they pick it up, it's not only attitudes and things like that, it is also physical things. One of the very funny stories we've got is one daughter's fostered. And people would keep coming up to Neil and saying, I cannot believe how much she looks like you. And we just laughed. And they're like, no, it must be the nose. And we just laughed because there's no genetic connection at all. And yet again and again, people came to us and said, she looks so much like Neil. And it was the way she talked, the way she walked, the way she held herself, because she spent a lot of time with him. that she looked like him. So automatically,
so she looked awesome, pretty much.
so what's happening is it rubs off. So that's what we're talking about. It's the stuff we don't even know that we're passing on to our children just from being who we are. And that is how the human body has been created to learn. That's how, it's the instinct that a bird will have an instinct and the animals have their instincts. We use our senses to learn from the people and places around us as to how to behave and how to conduct ourselves. So that is why atmosphere is very, very important.
So but
we're coming back to that next week.
We're going to come back to that. But the point I want to make is this: is that the atmosphere needs to be set by the parents, okay? Because there is going to be an atmosphere set, regardless of what you think. There's going to be an atmosphere set. So we need to decide as parents what atmosphere we want to set in our family, and that's determined by the culture and values, etc. But we have to be intentional about that. So that's what we're gonna talk about in this course. And so you're probably hoping that I'm going to give you a formula for how culture and atmosphere work, and you can go away and go and do that. Unfortunately, I'm going to disappoint you. And this is what we're going to talk about in this session, is that we're not going to give you a formula. What we're going to do is we're going to step back one more, and we're going to talk about identity, because identity determines all these other things. And whose identity is it? It's the person that needs to set the culture and needs to set the atmosphere. So it's your guys' identity, and that is what we want to talk about now. So we're going to step back, and we're going to give a little bit of homework to do as well, because your identity is going to determine the rest of what we've just spoken about. Do you want to go talk about identity?
Talk about that. Okay.
Yeah.
So just a thought as to why are we talking about this now? Why identity now? And why suddenly this now? And we were talking about this the other day, Neil and I, and that's when we realized that we would love to share this with everyone else, because it was quite a revelation for us. Was just that this year's been hard. This year's been really hard for everyone. It has rocked so many areas of so many of our lives. All our normals have been pulled up. And for us as a family, we moved across provinces just before lockdown. So for us, it's a new town, it's new friends. We didn't even hardly meet anyone. Hello, Cindy. We're so glad you're here. I met you. There's very few people we've met. It's been hard because every single stake in the ground was pulled out. I mean, we didn't even know where to go and shop. And suddenly we locked down, and I'm like, where do I buy flour from? Because we buy 12.5 kgs at a time. I can't go to Spar and buy that. So there's not even a Spar in the Cape. I mean, there's a few, but like really, I didn't even know where to go shop because I couldn't find a Spar. So there are all these things that I didn't realize that these were so important in my running of my everyday life and in my comfort of who I was. And it made us start thinking about how many other people have had so many things that have been pulled out this year. Jobs have been lost, family members have been lost, people have missed their traditions, their birthdays, Easter, Passover, that whole season looked different. Communities have been lost as churches have been locked down, and groups, I mean, people belong to Girl Guides, wherever they belong to, that's all been pulled out. And suddenly we've all found ourselves standing very raw, very almost exposed and naked, as we like, who am I and what am I when all of these things are pulled away from me? I maybe don't have my job. I've lost a family member. I don't know where to shop. I don't know what my day is going to look like. I don't even know what day of the week it is. How do I function in this? And then what do I become to the people around me when all those stakes are pulled out the ground and I'm just standing here like going, I don't know who I am. So, and that made us have this whole year has been a lot of conversations going around. Yeah. And we've realized how important it's been to have stakes in the ground established in knowing my identity and who I am. And from there, be able to go forward. So why is identity important when we're talking about atmosphere? Because like, where's the connection between all that? Okay. So the connection here is that who I believe I am and what I believe about myself and my reality is going to affect the way I act around me and to the people around me and the way that I the way I breathe my air out for other people to breathe in is going to be about what I believe about myself. So let's say, for example, I believe that, let's say I believe that everyone is judging me all the time by the way my house looks and the way my children act, okay? So therefore, I'm going to be all the time looking around and seeing whatever anyone else does, I'm going to be reading their reactions to me through their words and how they looking. Are they looking at my children? Are they looking at the clothes? Have they looked at this? Have they? And so what I'm going to expect at home is that my home is absolutely perfect. It's not, but this is a totally hypothetical example, but I'm going to expect that my home is like this and my children are behaved like this and my children are dressed like this because everyone's looking. And so therefore I'm going to have an incredibly rigid, what's the right word? I want to say dogmatic. Is that the right word? A very, this is the way we got to do it. Guys, why are you not like this? Dress like this. Can you be ready like da, da, da. And it's nothing actually to do with my children. It's got to do with what I believe about myself and what other people are saying. But the children don't know that. The rest of the family doesn't know that. All they see is the rah, 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 rah. Hurry up. Come on. Dress like this. Be like this. Why are you such a failure? Why is your room a mess? Why? And it's actually rooted in my issues because I'm worried about what other people are thinking about me. So therefore, it affects the atmosphere of the home and it affects their view on who they are, because now they don't think they were good enough because they're not meeting my standards, because I'm not content with who I am because of other people's voices. So I know that sounds like quite a way back, but when we look at what we believe about ourselves and what we're trying to perform in our homes, and or we're trying to protect ourselves from, maybe it's maybe my identity is rooted in full of fear. I'm scared about what people think. I'm scared about what the world's going to do to me. I'm scared about how people are going to judge me if I choose an alternative education, whatever it is. And because of that, I parent in a certain way because I'm acting out of what I fear in that case. And so all of these worldviews are going to affect the way that we outplay our home. And then there's other bigger worldviews as well. So what do I believe about my self-worth? Do I believe that I am a good mother or a good parent? Do I believe I'm a good wife? Or do I feel like I'm a failure? Do I feel like I'm just not good enough? No matter what I do is not good enough. And then that's going to outplay in the atmosphere of the home, either the way I speak to the children or the way I speak to myself. And they hear you talking to yourself, oh, I should have done it like this. Why didn't I do it like that? If only I'd remembered to do whatever. And those words are then going to be playing in their own minds, because if mom thinks about that like that, well, then those are the words that are going to go into their own mind as well. So this is where I need to stop and I need to have a look at some things. For example, I've just written some questions here is, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about my purpose? And what do I think my purpose is today, tomorrow, and in the future? What is my purpose for being here on earth? What is my, how important are other people's voices in my life? How important are my own, how important is, how loud is my own voice in my head? And what is my own voice saying to me? What do I believe about life after death? Because that's going to make a difference. What do I believe about eternity or not? Because that's going to affect how I'm living and my identity about myself. What do I believe about being accepted? How do I cope with being accepted and rejected? If I apply for a job and I don't get a job, how does that affect me as a person? And how's that going to outplay on the people around me? Other things that will affect my identity, positive, negative, either way, is what are my abilities, my talents, my hobbies, my interests. So my one son is a violinist. He plays the violin. He picked up the violin. He plays the violin. So his identity is rooted in being a violinist. If he had never played the violin and he had done abseiling instead, that would be part of his identity, which is totally healthy and good and great. But we need to look at those things. Are those hobbies and interests and what I'm placing as my identity, is that who I am? Is it because I chose those things? Or is it because 10 years ago I had a fear of not earning enough money, so I went into a career that I absolutely hate today?
Yeah.
And therefore I'm now got my identity that I am a whatever, but yet that wasn't who I was created to be. So I know I'm throwing out stuff that doesn't sound like it's got anything to do with parenting and family, but it's so important for us to just take this time to backtrack and actually look at us, look at ourselves before we try and fix the problems around us and put plasters on and start parenting. We need to stop and take some time to look at our own being, our own beingness being healthy and happiness within ourselves. And then once we've looked at all those different things, for us to actually look and say, are these beliefs about my identity rooted in truth? So I might believe that I am a failure and I'm not a good mom and I just can't get anything right, and I really, really believe that about myself. But is that the truth? No, that's not the truth. I mean, all our kids are fine. They're not. Even though we feel like a failure, if you're going to ask your child, am I a failure? Your child's going to say no. But we put on these glasses and then we act out from these places that we believe that are not true. So once we've answered these questions about what do I believe about myself, what do other people say, do I believe what other people are saying, I need to then step back and say, well, is this the truth? Or have I put on tainted glasses, or have I believed truths over the years that other people have spoken about me? Other people have said, you're not good enough, or you never succeed, or you always make the wrong choices. And so those words are playing and playing in your mind, and they putting, like, I just want to see that, like that tainted glass you put on windows so you can't, like, it blocks out the sunlight. Like that is what I see, people wearing these tainted glasses, that we're looking through the world and we're not seeing it through the true color of what it really is, because we're believing what other people have said about us. We always have a joke in our house with the whole thing where people at the moment, the whole thing where you can choose whether you're a male or female, and the fact that people are being given that choice now. But what about, and we saw something somewhere where someone's, well, the whole thing, I might be a girl, but I identify with being a boy, and that's a whole nother conversation. But we just found the irony in that is then, well, what if you are in China and you've been brought up as a Chinese, but you're European, and you say, but I am Chinese? No, you're not. You might live in China, you might look like a Chinese, but you're not. This is who you are. And there's so many things that we have. So we heard another joke as well somewhere, that someone said that they were 23 years old, but they identified with a retired 60-year-old millionaire, so they wanted their pension. So how many times are we identifying with things in life that are just not true? So that 23-year-old cannot go and get their pension and retire because they're not.
I tried, but they said no.
That's not the truth about who they are. And so, I mean, often my kids will come through and they go, oh, I identify with being a whatever today, can I, whatever animal or whatever, can I go and get out my schoolwork? Because is that, no, that's not the truth of who you are.
Yeah.
So looking at life through those lenses of truth, so that we can look at who we really are and who we really created to be, and the truth about us. And once we understand that, it's going to shift the atmosphere in our homes, because we're going to be walking in a place of confidence of who we really are.
Yeah, so I heard a stat the other day, Generation X, which is your teenagers that are coming up now, they are the most anxious generation that's ever lived, the generation with the most anxiety. And I believe it's simply because that has been put onto them by the people that are influencing them, i.e. their parents and the people in authority. And so, and that is rooted in this whole thing of identity. Their parents don't really know who they are. They're the generation that's just before them that were, a bit wishy-washy as well. So they don't know their own selves. And this new generation that's coming up is full of anxiety, because they're picking up the fact that these people don't know who they are. So it's so key for us to start off as parents with who we are and figuring that out before we can influence our family's culture and atmosphere. I hope you guys understand that, and I hope you appreciate the fact that we're not just going to give you a formula, because we can't. We can work it out for our family. You guys are going to have to work it out for your guys' family, because what we believe and what our truths are may be different for someone else. So yeah. So does that make sense, everyone? Any comments? There's a couple of comments in the that have been posted.
We got a thumbs up from. So basically, this is quite a lot for quite a new, I suppose, way of looking at parenting. So we're gonna now, if anyone's got any questions or wants to chat or anything, we've probably got about 10 minutes left. If anyone who's got questions or anything, and we can just chat around this thing of identity and of the fact that is there anything anyone's battling with or any thoughts on it? And then for us to, what we're going to do is actually send you a little thing. That's why we created a WhatsApp group for this week, of a challenge for this week for you to go and have a coffee with yourself. And we've got a challenge for each of you to take. And then it would be awesome if on the group, you don't need to write about what you figured out about yourself, but how did you find this? I mean, it's hot. Like, did you find it easy looking at these identity, at like who you are? Did you find that this was a refreshing or actually a negative experience? So it would be really awesome if you want to share on the group just how you find it, that please feel free to do that as well. So yeah, we're going to do that this week, but if anyone wants to share or ask any questions, please feel free to go for it.
The other comment I wanted to make was quickly, sorry, Daryl, is that the whole thing of your identity and culture and atmosphere is not a given. It's not a thing that you now achieve and you've reached and you can tick the box. Okay, it's an ongoing thing, because our culture for our family next year may look different to what it is now, because things have changed and things have progressed. Maybe we figured out who we are eventually, and so we are able to parent better. So this is not a thing where you can say, okay, we've reached that point, we have a set culture. It's a thing that you got to keep working on while you're parenting, and even after that, because then they're going to have your kids are going to have kids, and then you as grandparents are going to be able to influence them and your grandkids. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not just a tick the box, we've done it, we've reached the thing now. Yeah, Daryl, you had something to say?
I had something to ask, but I think you touched on it. So how much of, and I wouldn't ever take anyone else's culture and apply it in my home. So the question is quite open-ended to say, how much of effort is from an intentional perspective, where it's like direct, communication of culture to your children, and how much of it is, you would say, is indirect? I mean, do you guys actually have times where you sit down as a family and you call the gathering and say, listen, guys, this is how we do things as a family, as opposed to on the move? Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
I think we do regularly sit down. I mean, we try and eat at least 2 meals a day together. So we do sit down as often as we can, and we talk through things. But I often find that those times, I'm also busy undoing the things that I notice that they've picked up from me, that they've unintentionally absorbed just from me living in the house. So we do have those times, and it's like, okay, I know that I reacted like this, and this is not right, this is not okay, I'm working on me. So in our family, this is, even though I didn't do this today, this is actually the way we are, and we need to have grace and move forward. So it is that it's intentional, as in meeting with the children and discussing it, but it's also incredibly intentional in me and choosing to change who I am and grow as I am. I can't rest and be satisfied with me. I need to keep pushing in and growing that, so that the children, often they see me battling, they see me going, I don't want to do this, I'm finding this hard, this is really hard for me right now, and I speak that language, but I'm going to choose to do this because I know this is right, even though I don't want to do it. And I mean, we're often having to pick up attitudes and things that they have got from us, especially when we're stressed. and we're not doing anything intentional. And life, especially this year, it's been incredibly stressful. And suddenly we're seeing different things coming out in the children, and we're like, why did you react like that? Where did that frustration come from? And suddenly we realize those are the words we've spoken, and it's the way we've reacted. So obviously there's something in my heart that needs to shift. Why am I reacting to my stresses like that when I didn't think the stress would cause that reaction, if that makes sense?
Yeah, but we also very much have we talk a lot in our family. We talk through a lot of stuff, and we have this thing. You know, this is what the Magics do. So we have certain things that we've put in place that are our culture, and that's what the Magics do. And then when we're on the go and something happens, and they were like, we you know, often you'll hear the kids say, no, actually, that's not what the Magics do. This is what the Magics do. So you set the culture and intentionally, and then as you go, you know, on the go, it's refreshing to see them picking it up, and helping to instill the culture and the atmosphere, because it's been set so strongly when you're doing it intentionally.
So we'll send through the challenge this week. I don't know if anyone else has got anything else they want to ask.
I think I got a comment, you know. We're going into a season with Josiah, who's now 11.
Yeah,
so
he just turned 11.
Yeah, I think it's going from more the instructional mode to asking questions.
Yeah.
As much as our children inherit something of who we are, I think God, my belief system, gives them their own complete uniqueness, which I'm not to blame for or to be patted on the back for. You know, I think one of the things we're trying to do is ask more questions, because some of the concepts and ideas, imagination, entrepreneurial edge, it's just unusual seeing your children being able to educate you. But in asking questions, so, you know, our culture, we find, is taking on another angle now, where when we ask our children, sure, okay, I never saw it that way. And it's something to also consider, you know. Yeah.
It's very much that as they grow, we find, from about the age 10, they do start pulling away from and questioning what you've done. But when we've laid down those foundational things, such as we don't lie, the way we speak to each other, those are the things that have been laid and year, and now it's almost like a trampoline now. They can have that, and they can spring forward into who they've been created to be, because they have those foundational truths. But I think, the big trick is for me to look at my foundational truths and see what lies I'm passing on to them, because I don't know the truth about who I am, if that makes sense. But no, it is very much I'm just looking, you've got 4 minutes. Go for it.
I just say very quickly, I think I'm just very grateful that you have started with us as parents rather than give us parenting tools. I think that it is so critical to start at the beginning and to look at the very root, the very cause. And so I just wanted to say, well done. I think that's a great start. We look forward to the rest.
That's great. Lisa, you've got 1 minute.
Okay, very quickly, I hope I can do this in 1 minute. Just to get back to the identity again, I've seen in my own life that we as homeschool moms, I think we struggle the most with our identity, because we get so much negative input from the world that in my own life, I'm constantly questioning myself. And I've been talking with my husband with this, and we realized that it's going over on our children, because our children, my son came the other day to me and he said, Mom, what must I tell people when they ask me in what school I am? And I was like, whoa, stop the bus, and I realized, okay, this is coming from me, because I'm uncertain all the time about who I am and what I am doing. So yes, I think it's critical that you have to go and look at yourself. What is your identity? Where is it coming from? And in who is it rooted?
Yeah.
So,
The thing is that you don't need to apologize for what you've decided and the choices you make. And you know, someone going to school, my sister and them, they all school and all the rest, and that's awesome, that's fun, and I have no problem with them doing that. That's their story. Our oldest child, for the last 3 years of his schooling, went to school, and that's what we decided for her. Whereas the other kids, we homeschool, and there's nothing wrong or right about either way. But for us as a family, this is what we do. So yeah, and you need to be confident in that. All right.
Yes, it's like what is the voices that who is the voices in your head? You know, you have to sort that out. You cannot listen to every voice in your head. You know, you have to sort that out, you know, and decide what is best for your family.
Exactly. Yeah.
Regardless of what everyone else is saying. Yes.
Yes, no, definitely. It is. And also, yeah, what your own voice is saying to you as well. And I'm looking, and there's like 100 things we could carry on talking for like 20 hours. So we've got like 1 minute left. So what we want to just quickly do in the last minute is, I know there's people here that are Christians, aren't Christians, or different walks of life. We just want to quickly pray. If you want to stay on, you can stay on. We've got 1 minute. If you want to go, you're welcome to go. But we just want to pray for you this week. So yeah, in our last minute, it might cut us off in the middle, but goodbye if we do get cut off. But we're just going to pray for you for your family for the week ahead.
Yeah. So Lord Jesus, we just thank you for this awesome time. We thank you, Jesus, for every single family represented here. We thank you, Lord God, that you love families. And I pray, Lord God, as this week, as parents, as we look at identity, you will just speak truth into the lives of each one of these parents so that we can influence our families and the greater world positively for you. In Jesus' name, amen.
And give them a confidence to dig deep in those areas that we need to go and look at.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we'll be thinking and praying for you this week, and please feel free on the chat to add anything you want to add. And yeah, we will see you all next week at the same time.
Cheers.
Bye.